Then after 6, 7 years, I was realizing there is no end to this journey of being an H1B employee. I don't believe in like the traditional education system anymore. I would say focus on what you want to build and figure out a pathway for yourself that way. He works himself 3 jobs and he makes 300K sitting in Delhi, like no expense literally. You can go to Canada and be in the same US time zone. So a lot of people are not realizing that they can actually make US salary and US work even when they are not in the US.
So, Atul, first of all, it's great to have you on the show. I've been wanting to talk to you because I've been following your work for a long time. So, thank you for coming on the show.
Anytime, happy to answer any questions you have or your audience, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Atul, I consider you to be an immigration guru. And a lot of my friends and a lot of my cousins actually also who are planning to move to the US or Canada or even Australia or London. I don't know much about, immigration and is it actually worth it? What is the H1B process and stuff like that? So, and I know that 10 years ago, your answer might have been different to this question. But if you're talking to, let's say, my cousin, or if you're talking to a 20-year-old who is planning to, give GRE and move to the US, would you encourage them against it, given the political scenarios and stuff and everything that comes with it? Or would you still encourage them to go for it?
You would see my answer also changing about this from time to time. Like when I saw, maybe like I had a different answer a few years ago and maybe a different answer now. So my background is also very important here. So I basically graduated from IIT Kharagpur in 2017. And as soon as I graduated, I went to the US, did my master's from UC Santa Barbara. I wanted to be more of an entrepreneur, build my own startup. So I tried my startup for a year. I faced immigration challenges at that time also. I ended up taking up a job at that time and worked in a few companies as a product manager. Then after 6, 7 years, I was realizing there is no end to this journey of being an H1B employee. And I was like, I want to figure out what I want to do in life. So I left my job and I started building my startup. Now I have a company over the last 2 years, which happened to be in immigration. This is also a company in AI where we leverage AI in immigration. So when I was, let's say, I was in undergrad, my answer was like, okay, well, yeah, I had two choices, either to build my own company sitting in Bangalore at that time, or to just study and go outside. And I chose exposure over anything else. And I was like, okay, let's just go to the US and learn about how this economy works. And it's a great experience. So that's what I did. Um, the moment I was like, okay, well, I understood about the immigration system, I was like, well, I might be better off building my company from India instead of actually being here after my master's and not able to do what I want to do. Then after trying that company and when company was not working out, I took a job, and maybe it was for better that I was in the US because I got a good experience of how work ethic and how fast growing companies work. So that was great. But then again, I was like, I don't want to be an employee for after a few years. So I want to do my own company. And then I was again struggling. So I was like, maybe I can build my company from India better than being in the US.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that once I left the US in November last year, after that I stayed in the India for like 5, 6 months, and then now I'm in Canada. And I mean, I have realized a lot of new things which are changing in the world and how um, an Indian should perceive the world.
Okay.
And when I say this answer is very specific to someone from India who is hardworking, ambitious, and wanna like make a life for themselves. I think those people should look at figuring out how to be virtually or in person in the community of the most ambitious people that they look up to. Maybe the answer would be same for even when it's non-Indian, but I would say this answer is very applicable to Indian. Here's why. One thing I realized about India and like the work culture, a lot of people have very like to take the work as more mediocre. Like the seriousness in work is not there. The work culture is not that great. If you ask someone to do something, they're like non-serious because they're like, oh well, I have a good life. Money doesn't mean a lot. Like you can still survive in India without a lot of money. While in the US or like other countries, there is no way you can survive living without actually having money. So in a
Okay.
way, that changes the work ethic people have in the US or other countries. So my answer right now would be seeing all this Trump and all. I would say forget about all other countries. For just think about what you want to do, and there would be a path that will be created for you in the right places. So figure out where how to find ambitious people. GRE and all, I don't believe in like the traditional education system anymore. I would say focus on what you want to build and figure out a pathway for yourself that way.
No, but it's interesting. So you said with Trump and all, and I was of the perception that okay, political shifts happen in America all the time. But you're telling me that
Mhm.
there is some impact in the ground because of Trump on the ground, in numbers or in terms of visa rejections.
So when I look at the, I think numbers are still to be out from a perspective of like, what the Trump says. But overall, from a perspective of like what we are seeing, of course, there is a lot more scrutiny even for high skilled immigrants, which was not there in the past. So things are looking a lot different than how they were in the past. Now, what does that kind of impact directly? I mean, we will see all those impacts. Like we know that new student appointments for visas has been paused right now, which means new students who want to go to the US to study cannot go right now. There is a pause. So it is impacting the lives of people.
Okay.
So yes, there is a direct impact.
And also coming back to your own experience about the H1B, I've
Mhm.
heard some bizarre things about the lottery system and everything. So if it would be great if you, drawing from your own experience, explain to us what the H1B process in the US is. Like, okay, once a student gets there and gets the degree, and I think there's a
Mhm.
timer that kicks in before you, like after that you need to have a job and stuff like that. I don't really understand it. So if it would be great if you could just explain to me what the realities on the ground are even today.
So the way it works is you can come to the US on an F1 visa, and once your studies finish, you will get an option to have either a CPT or an OPT. OPT is more of optional practitioner training. You can get it for 12 months, or sometimes if it's a STEM course, it could be 24 months more extension. So it's 12 for 20 plus 24. Now, in as you get this started with this STEM OPT, the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out a job for yourself. Uh, that can be sometimes you can have like more of a volunteer opportunity also, which can work from a legit company, but you need to have really define like you have a work something like you have a work defined. Now that happens in the first few months where you need to do that. If you don't have a job or like anything to work at and you are staying in the US, you can't stay beyond a certain point of time. Now, in different scenarios, it is 90 days versus, 6 months. So it just changes. So you cannot be like, saying like, okay, I want to just live in the US and keep searching for jobs beyond 6 months, which they say is like, okay, if you can't find a job in 6 months, then you basically cannot find a job after that too. So those things, those restrictions are there. Now, this is all about F1 OPT and all. This even goes further when we are talking about the next path, which is let's say someone actually got an F1 and able to find a job, and then they were able to find a job. Now the company needs to apply for their H1B. There is a lottery that happened for H1B, and only a few people get selected in that lottery. Now,
No, but hold on, hold
if
on.
you on
When we're talking about lottery, you actually mean literally a person picking out names from a hat? Like, what does lottery mean?
I mean, it is of course an automatic lottery where they have randomization of in an online system.
But what reason for like why can't just they say that we'll give it to the most meritorious, let's say, candidates?
So there is a cap. So there is a path of merit where they say you are able to find a job, okay, and
Okay.
your company is ready to apply for your H1B. So there is a merit. But after that, if there are still like 500,000 people who are actually qualifying there. Now they need to find 85,000 people who they will give the H1B to. So how do you get from 500K to 85,000? One way you can say is like just find people who have the highest salary. Now, is finding people with the highest salary the right way actually? Or so that is like question up in the air.
Okay.
So at this point, it's more about can these all people are like more of equally meritorious. Now let's help figure out throw a lottery on which 85,000 get selected.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so then H1B. So this is all about lottery. Now in H1B, even if you got it through the lottery, if you lose your job, then you only have 60 days to find a new job. And I think that is a bigger concern for people that, hey, I figured out everything. I am here, I have a pathway and everything, but still I can't stay here for longer than, 60 days if I can't find a job. So that becomes like a bigger problem than anything else.
Okay, and you have to be willing to find a company who is also willing to sponsor your H1B, or once your H1B is there, you.
Yeah, so there is not another round of lottery that you have to go through once you got through the lottery. But yes, the companies still have to agree that they want to apply for H1B.
Okay, so these layoffs that Amazon and Google, these layoffs are hitting hard to the immigrants basically.
100%. So a lot of immigrants are struggling because of it. Because just how tech industry is changing, the immigrants are the most vulnerable of all people in this situation. Because if someone is a citizen or a green card holder, they can stay in the country for longer. Like they don't need to leave. While the person who is an immigrant, they will have to immediately figure out a job or leave in 60 days. So this is like extremely challenging for a lot of immigrants. A lot of
Oh,
people are moving back to India. A lot of people are moving outside the US. So that is happening.
gotcha. And I have also some friends in Canada and some friends in US as well. So this is anecdotal, but they tell me that it's much, even talking about the Western countries, it's much easier to get into, let's say, an Australia or a Canada than the US. And then again, via the Canada route, you can go to the US. How feasible is this? Is it just,
People should define what their ideal goal is. Now let's see, someone is looking to build their own company. Now, given the nature of how US is as a capitalist economy, it definitely brings that capital for someone to be able to build a company that they might not be able to find in other countries that easily. Or there is a possibility that someone is building an internet business which does not require them to be anywhere in the US, like they can be anywhere around the world. So then they can build their internet business from anywhere, like they don't need to be in the US. Now, so these different scenarios exist. So people need to find out what their pathway is in life, what they're getting towards, and then make a decision which country. And that's kind of what we help these days with people in helping them figuring out their personal journey is whether it's a startup, whether it's moving outside India, whether it's about learning outside India and then coming back to India. Like, what is their ideal journey and how can we help them be on, like, a path where that works for them?
and I've been following your tweets and your podcast as well. And you have also mentioned this before, that whatever work that many people are doing, let's say in the US, they can, punch in the same amount of work sitting in a Bangalore or a Mumbai. Like remote work is getting more and more real. So, do you
Mhm.
believe that there is, first of all, do you actually believe that uh, you can sit in Bangalore and make earn dollars? And secondly, do you think that there will be a strategic shift in the next 10 to 20 years? Like you said, people are moving back to India.
I think that is already happening. It might not be happening at the scale that you might be looking for, but I already know people who are actually making $300,000 sitting in Delhi.
Okay.
Like this guy was looking for a US visa, so he reached out to me. But his story was like, "Hey, I am doing three jobs in software, sitting in India, and I don't need to deal. I mean, one is like through more of like my Dubai company, but he works himself three jobs and he makes 300K sitting in Delhi, like no expense, literally.
Okay.
So there are people out there who are already making it happen for themselves. Now, the trend is gonna accelerate or not? I think it's probably gonna accelerate a lot more as the quality of talent improves in India. We also need to consider time zone as a big factor when it comes to US versus Bangalore time zone. Because if you are working with a US company or a US team,
Hmm.
you need to have some overlap of time. Now, I have seen usually like people who are working on remote jobs like this, they're open to working in the night shift where they're working with the teams in the US. But I mean, some people are like, hey, I don't think I can work through that. But for them, there are other options which I don't think a lot of Indians have actually explored. Like Latin America, there are so many countries which are actually really good in Latin America. Like the quality of life there is actually good. So a lot of Indians can go there and it's the same US time zone. You can go to Canada and be in the same US time zone. So a lot of people are not realizing that they can actually make US salary and US work even when they are not in the US.
And Latin America, so we're talking about Brazil, like,
There are plenty of countries starting with Colombia, Costa Rica, El Salvador. El Salvador right now is like very much popping. They are doing very well in terms of safety and quality of life. You can go to some places in Mexico. There are like really good towns by the beach. So, and the cost of living is lower there. Like a lot of Americans are going to Latin America.
wow.
If you think from an Indian perspective, of course it is a far away from home. What were you expecting that I'm going to stay in the same town I was born in? No, that's not how life works. But if you are having a hard time understanding that ecosystem, there are people, even there are some Indians out there, in these countries who are like, trying out a life there in Latin America. How cool it is, like, being from India, going all the way to, not to America, but to Latin America and working from there for a US company. Like, these things are happening now.
And talk about different countries. So you also have experiences in Dubai, and I was talking to someone who lives in Dubai basically, and he said that forget America, forget Australia, forget Canada, US, sorry, Dubai, Singapore. These countries are coming up, and you should actually explore going to these countries as well. So what do you think about Dubai and small countries, but countries that provide immensely like great quality of life, basically?
Yeah, I think these countries are great. I think everyone should see that in the end, it's not about the education anymore. You can build a life and learn from Twitter about everything in the world, which a lot of people are doing, and build a life for yourself. Now, once you can learn how to build a life for yourself and make money, then you can basically be in Singapore, Dubai, wherever you want, and focus on, like, your personal freedom. And I would even say, like, you don't need to think about, like, oh, whether I'm going to settle in Singapore or Dubai or Canada or US. No, you can buy properties in different locations and you can spend like few months in each of these locations. Like, now the current world is making it possible for anyone to have a very good mobile friendly, more of freedom type lifestyle. If you are rich and if you can become rich and if you know how to monetize for yourself from the internet, you can live that life.
Gotcha. I'm trying. So let's see. Uh, and finally, Atul, OpenSphere is also an interesting chapter in your life, I would say. So if you could just tell us how you stumbled upon it and what is it exactly that OpenSphere does?
So the idea basically came through when I was struggling with my own immigration journey. I was on H1B and I was like, I want to build my own company. This is not working. This is not a good pathway for me. And I saw how leverage was getting developed with the help of Gen AI. I was seeing how Gen AI works and how it can be helpful in immigration law. So I started working on our product from that perspective to help immigrants kind of evaluate their profile for different visas like O1 and EB1A, like all the extraordinary visas. Once we started doing that, we realized like people are looking for to connect with, to connect and learn about how we can help them even with filing. So we started partnering with immigration lawyers to be able to offer end to end. Now we have a technology platform that powers all of this. So immigrants come to us and then we see if we can help them and we offer different packages to help them. And then we get the service delivered with the help of immigration attorneys. So we help with end to end. So that's what OpenSphere does. Now we support immigrants, startup founders, enterprises, everyone for any of the US visa. We even have partners for Canada. So if someone is looking to move to Canada, we can help with that too.
It's amazing. So, and I checking out your LinkedIn, you're also looking for a legal intern. So, if anyone is in Delhi, so if anyone who's watching this, they can apply. That's actually all I had. I wanted to make it a short one, but a informative one. So, thank you for giving us your time, and I hope I can get you back on the show someday. But yeah, I'll just let you go, and I'll catch the IPL finals. Bye bye.
Sounds great, Rishi. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.